The widowed rancher paid $6.90 for the blind girl. He did not ask her name. She did not ask where they were going. The auction yard was nearly empty when it happened, just a few stragglers and a man with a clipboard trying to act like the situation was normal. The girl stood still on the platform, her bare feet turning slightly as she listened to the sounds around her. No one bid. No one even looked twice. Then Eli Thorne spoke. $6.90. It was not loud. It did not need to be. No one else was going to speak. Eli walked back to his truck without looking at her. She followed the sound of his steps, climbed up into the truck bed by feel, one hand trailing the rusted side panel. He did not offer her a coat, did not ask if she needed help. He slammed the door, started the engine, and drove. The road out of town was long and bone dry. Clara sat on the metal bed with her knees pulled to her chest, the heat of the sun rising off the truck's skin like steam. Wind tangled her hair, but she did not brush it away. Her face stayed turned slightly left, toward the shifting sound of the road beneath her. She did not cry. She never cried anymore. Not when it mattered. The ranch came into view a mile before the turnoff. She smelled it before she heard it. Dust, old wood, iron. Not fresh iron, but the kind that had been left out too long. The kind that curled into itself. The truck rattled down the dirt path until it stopped in front of the house. He shut off the engine. The wind filled the silence. He got out and slammed the door. A moment later, the tailgate dropped. She climbed out without waiting for instruction. The ground was cracked and dry under her feet. No grass, no dogs, no chickens. She heard the windmill turn once, then stop. The house in front of her groaned in the breeze. Something about it felt like it was trying to disappear into the ground. He led her inside. She followed the sound of his boots on warped floorboards. Past a cold kitchen, down a short hallway. He opened a door. "You sleep here," he said. It was a pantry. It smelled like dry beans and old paper. There was a cot, a folded blanket, and a metal cup on the floor. He left without closing the door. She sat on the cot and folded her hands. Breathed in. Waited. He did not speak to her again that night. The next morning he gave her instructions. Clean the porch. Pump water from the well. Boil it. Scrub the pans after he ate. Never speak unless asked. Never walk near the barn. He said it the way you would tell someone how to feed a dog. Just enough to be understood. Nothing more. She followed his rules. Not because she was obedient, but because she was smart. She knew the pattern. Knew how men worked when no one else was watching. The ones who did not talk much were the ones you watched closest. Eli was quiet, but there was something else under the quiet. Pressure. Like a rope pulled too tight. Sooner or later it would snap. At night, she lay still in the pantry, listening to the wind press against the house. The cot creaked when she breathed. The walls groaned like something inside them wanted out. And every night, she could hear his boots. Just standing in the hallway. Not moving. Not knocking. Just there. Breathing through his nose. Waiting. By the fifth night, she stopped pretending to sleep. She just lay there, silent and tense, heart pounding hard enough she thought he might hear it. But he never came in. Not yet. He always walked away after a while. She did not know if that made it better or worse. On the sixth night, something changed. She heard a sound outside. Heavy. Not wind. Not boots. It moved slow, dragging across dirt with weight behind it. She held her breath. Turned her head toward the window, though she could see nothing through her blindness. The sound came closer. Paused. Then a deep breath. Not human. Rough. Like something had been running for a very long time and had only now stopped to catch itself. Then silence. She did not sleep. In the morning, she went outside under the excuse of getting water. The ground near the side of the house was torn. Not trampled. Not dug. Just shifted. She crouched and ran her fingers over the dirt. Found the shape. Hoofprint. Broad. Heavy. Fresh. And not from any livestock she had heard near the house. She went back inside and said nothing. Eli did not notice. But Clara knew. Something had come through the night. And it had not left. Eli left before sunrise the next morning. Clara listened from the cot in the pantry as the truck engine started, backfired once, then rumbled away down the dirt road. She waited until the sound disappeared over the ridge before she moved. The floor creaked under her feet, same spot near the kitchen doorway. She counted steps to the pump, poured the last of the boiled water into a clean tin, worked in silence. The house felt heavier with him gone than it did when he was inside. It was not the walls or the air. It was the weight of something watching, not from a window, not from the woods, from somewhere closer. Something had been near her last night, something that had not come inside but had stayed. That thought lived in the corners of her mind as she swept, boiled beans, folded the cloth over the pan. She moved carefully, quietly, never fast, never sudden. She had learned long ago that in houses ruled by men, noise was a weapon and silence was a shield. When Eli returned that night, his mood had gone darker. He did not speak when she handed him the plate, did not grunt, did not nod, just stared at the food for too long, like he did not recognize it. He picked up the fork, dropped it, stood up, and scraped the whole plate into the trash bin without taking a bite. Then he left through the front door. She stood in the kitchen, back straight, hands folded, waiting. He did not return for over an hour. She heard the creak of the porch as he sat down, the clink of a bottle, the faint sound of his breathing between swigs. When he did come back inside, he walked past her without a glance, straight to his room. The door slammed. That night, Clara lay on her cot but did not close her eyes. The house was quiet, but not empty. The silence was thick, the kind that builds right before a storm breaks. Sometime near midnight, the sound came again. Not from inside the house, from outside. Presence not loud, but heavy. Measured steps across the dry earth. Not fast, not sneaking, confident, deliberate. She pushed herself up slowly, held still, listened. The steps circled the house once, then slowed near her window. There it was again, the breath. Low, strong, not human. Steady and patient. Her fingers curled around the edge of the blanket. She did not move, did not speak, just listened. After what felt like an hour, the presence drifted back toward the barn. The sound faded with it, and then nothing. She woke early and found the side of the barn again. Crouched down, felt the dirt. Prints, wide and deep, too large for any horse she had known, and not from something tied or corralled. The pattern told her this thing had walked freely, stood still for long stretches. It had been close, close enough to see her, close enough to reach her, and it had not. She did not tell Eli. She did not speak of it to anyone, but she started leaving a bucket of water outside the pantry door at night. Not as a trap, not out of fear, out of something else. Recognition, memory. She did not know how or when, but she felt certain she had met this creature before. The way it moved, the weight of its presence. It was not a stranger. Eli was worse the next night, angrier, not loud, but sharp. Everything she did seemed wrong. He slapped a cup out of her hand because she set it too close to the plate, barked at her for boiling too much water, told her she was eating too much, though she had not touched food in 2 days. When she scrubbed the floor, he spilled mud across it without a word and walked away. That night, he did not sit on the porch. He stayed inside, drank in the kitchen, then walked the halls. She heard his boots pass the pantry door 4 times, then stop, for too long. Her breath caught. She listened to the sound of the bottle hit the floor. He leaned on the door for a full minute, then walked off. The sound of his steps was different, not aimless now, not drunk, focused. The next morning, she tied a cord from the inside of the pantry door to the bed frame. Crude, but enough to keep it from opening quietly. She knew he would not wait forever, and she would not be able to fight him when he came. Her hands shook as she tied the knot, but her face stayed calm. That was the secret to surviving men like him. No panic, just planning. At dusk, she slipped outside again, walked to the place near the barn. The prints were fresher now. New lines cut through the dust. He had been closer last night, almost up to the porch. She knelt, touched the earth, still warm from the last press of hoof. Her fingers followed the edges, learning the shape by feel. There was no fear in her chest, only something that felt like remembering, like she had touched this shape before, long ago, in a place that no longer existed. She closed her hand into a fist, whispered once under her breath, "I remember you." Then she stood, turned, and went back into the house. She did not know yet that the thing circling her was not coming to scare her. It was coming to stop something before it was too late. Clara had felt pain before, not in the way most people talked about it. Hers was quieter, longer. It was the pain of knowing you had no place in the world, of knowing that when someone bought you, it was not to save you. It was to use you until there was nothing left worth keeping. Eli had not touched her yet, but she knew the weight of the waiting, the way his silence shifted, how his boots lingered a little longer in the hall, how he looked at her now with hunger in his eyes and bitterness behind it. It was like he had already decided what she was, and now he was trying to convince himself that taking her would somehow make him whole again. She began sleeping in her shoes, braid tied tight, a rusted spoon under her cot. It would not do anything against a grown man, but having it there made her feel like she had not completely given up. The cord on the door held for 2 nights. On the third, Eli found it. He did not say a word about it, just cut it loose with a pocket knife and dropped the rope in the middle of her floor. That night he did not bother standing in the hall. He went to bed drunk and slept through till dawn. But she did not. Outside, the air was changing. Not colder, just heavier. Like the land itself was waiting for something to fall. The thing that had been circling the house was not keeping its distance anymore. She could hear it now every night. Hooves against the dry dirt. Breathing. Slow. Deep. And always near her wall. Not moving much. Just standing. Like it knew she was there. Like it was waiting for her to remember. And finally she did. Came back to her in pieces. Not all at once. Not like a flash. More like a whisper that built into a name. Months ago. A holding pen outside a ranch near the state line. She had been kept in a shack with 2 other girls, waiting to be sold again. No one had fed them that week. The man who owned the place said they were costing him more than they were worth. He had started tying them to fence posts like livestock. Let them burn while he sat in the shade and smoked. The only place she could sit without being hit was near the bullpens. And there was one bull that did not flinch when she got close. He had a broken horn and 1 blind eye. The others avoided him, said he was dumb, slow, half dead. But when she sat beside the rail, he came near. When she cried quietly one night, he pressed his head to the post beside her. She had reached out, hand trembling, and he did not pull away. That was the first time in months she had touched something without being hurt. She had snuck him water, carried it in a plastic bowl stolen from the dog yard, shared her last piece of bread with him. And then, one day, men came to move livestock and he was taken away. She never knew where, until now. Now she knew exactly where he had gone. He had found her. He had come back. And he had been watching. That night, Eli stood in her doorway again. He did not knock, did not speak, just leaned on the frame. She sat up slowly. He was drunk. She could smell it, but not stumbling. This time he was steady, and that scared her more. He stepped in, closed the door behind him. Her breath caught. "You are not special," he said. "Just quiet. That is why I picked you." She did not move, did not respond. He took another step forward. "No one is coming for you. You understand." But he was wrong, because something already had. Eli did not wait for an answer. His boots crossed the pantry floor slowly, one after the other, until Clara could feel the air shift. He was close enough now that she could hear the fabric of his shirt stretch when he moved. He was not rushing. That was what made it worse. He was taking his time, testing how far she would let him go. She did not cry, did not beg. She just pulled her legs up onto the cot and turned her face toward the wall. Her hands were shaking in her lap, but her voice stayed steady when she spoke. "You do not have to do this." He did not respond, just grabbed her ankle, hard. His fingers dug in too deep. She kicked, but it was weak. He laughed under his breath, that same dead tone he used when talking about broken tools. Something in him had snapped and he had decided to stop pretending. She struggled again, tried to sit up, but he pushed her back down with one hand and pulled at the hem of her dress with the other. His breath was sour, heavy. His weight sank over her like wet sand. Her arms were pinned. Her voice choked off. "Stop," she whispered, barely audible. And then, a sound outside. Heavy, sudden. Something hit the porch. Wood cracked. It was not a knock. It was a warning. Eli froze. He looked toward the door. Clara could not see it, but she felt the shift in his body. Confusion. Fear. Another impact. Louder this time. The window next to the pantry rattled hard. Then the front door burst open. Wind roared in behind it, full of dust and force. Clara twisted beneath Eli's grip, trying to roll away. The porch collapsed with a sound like thunder. Wood shattered. Nails screamed. Then silence. Eli stood, stumbled back from the cot, his belt half undone, breath jerking in and out of his lungs. Clara curled against the wall, shaking, hands over her face. Then she heard it, the one sound she had not heard in months. A bellow, low, deep, rising from the ground like a storm rolling over the plains. The pantry window blew open. Dust poured in, and through it all the sound of hooves. Eli backed into the hallway. "What the hell is that?" he yelled. No one answered. He grabbed the shotgun from the kitchen wall, fumbled to break it open, dropped a shell, hands trembling. The wall exploded. Not the door, not the window. The wall came apart like paper. Boards shattered. Glass flew. And then the bull came through. Full size, black and scarred and terrible. His eyes locked on Eli, his breath visible in the cold night air. Clara could not see him, but she felt every step he took. The house shook. Eli fired once. Missed. The gunshot echoed through the kitchen. The bull charged. Eli turned too late. Horns caught him in the ribs and flung him against the stove. He hit hard, fell, screamed, tried to crawl, did not make it. The bull backed up and charged again. This time he did not lift Eli. He crushed him. The sound was wet, final. Wood cracked beneath the body. A groan. Then stillness. The bull did not move for a while. Just stood there in the ruins of the kitchen. Breathing. Waiting. Watching. Clara lay on the floor of the pantry, hands still over her head, her body shaking. When the wind died and the dust settled, she lifted her head. Slowly. Her lip was bleeding. Her dress torn. Her ribs ached from where Eli had pinned her. But she was alive. She sat up and listened. She could hear the breathing now. Close. Familiar. She stood, trembling, and stepped into the hall. She did not need to see him. She knew. He was there. He had come. And he had ended it. The bull turned, walked through the shattered front of the house and into the dark. Gone before the blood had time to dry. They found Eli's body 2 days later. A ranch hand named Burke drove out after the mail sat too long at the depot. He pulled up to the house and saw the porch collapsed, the front wall torn out like something had burst from the inside. He found Clara sitting on the kitchen floor with her back against the pantry door, still in the same torn dress, knees to her chest, arms wrapped around them like ropes. She did not speak when he entered. She did not look up. He stepped around the broken furniture, around the blood and shattered wood, and sat down across from her without asking. "I ain't gonna touch you," he said. She did not respond. He did not ask what happened. There was not much to ask. The body was what was left of a man. Bones bent the wrong way. One leg nearly gone. Chest caved in. No one said it was an animal. No cougar or wild dog could do that. It looked like a barn had fallen on him. But no barn stood nearby. And nothing else on the ranch was big enough to leave hoofprints that wide. Clara stayed at the ranch after they took the body. The sheriff came once. Asked her 3 questions. "Did he hurt you? Did you do this? Do you want to leave?" She answered one. "I'm staying." The sheriff nodded. "All right." Word traveled fast. No one blamed her. Even the ones who normally would. The church women with sharp mouths and sharper eyes kept theirs shut. The bruises on Clara's arms said enough. The tear in her dress. The broken bones buried behind the barn. Some folks claimed they saw a shape in the fields that night. Not a man. Not a bear. Something huge. Silent. Covered in dust and muscle. Some said they heard hooves. One woman swore she saw a shadow walk through a barbed wire fence like it was not there. Clara did not say anything about the bull. Not to Burke. Not to the sheriff. Not to the girls who dropped off food and clothes in the weeks that followed. But she did something else. Every night before sundown, she left a bucket of water at the edge of the porch. And every morning it was empty, no matter how heavy she filled it, no matter how far she placed it from the trail. She started cleaning the house, took down the broken door, rebuilt the pantry wall, repaired the porch board by board until it stood straight again. Someone dropped off seeds one day. She planted them. Slowly the ground changed. A little grass near the fence. A row of beans along the side. A tomato plant that did not die. People came sometimes. Not many. Never all at once. A girl from a foster home an hour out. A boy who walked for 2 days and did not know why. They stayed for a night, sometimes 2. Clara gave them soup. A bed. Never asked questions. They never did either. The sheriff passed by again months later. She was sitting on the porch, sharpening a blade. He stopped his truck, got out, stood there a moment. "You all right?" She nodded. He hesitated, then looked out past the barn. Still around. She did not answer. Did not need to. He just nodded once and got back in the truck. That winter, a storm hit harder than the last 3 years combined. Roads closed. Power lines dropped. 2 kids got lost near the hills east of Clara's ranch. Volunteers searched all night. At dawn, someone found them curled up beside a black shape in the snow, breathing steady, steam rising from its body. When help came, it turned and walked away without a sound. Clara did not speak about that either. But people started leaving out water in other towns. Sometimes it was full in the morning. Sometimes it was not. The bull became a story, a whisper. Some said it was a spirit. Others said it was just a lucky cow someone saw in the fog. But those who had seen it knew, and those who had not kept their voices down when they guessed. Clara did not chase the story. She just lived. And every night after dark, she stepped outside with a bucket in her hands, placed it beside the porch, and said only one thing into the wind: "I'm still here." And somewhere out in the dark, the ground would tremble, and the breathing would answer.